ACIC. Our partners are Beer Garage Accelerator, Atal Incubation Center, Nolixon Innovations and Technology Private Limited, and Enabling Ideas. And I'm the host for today's event. Before starting the event, we are having a member from the ACIC, that is Dr. Sachikanda Das. So I will request him to speak a few words about ACIC. Over to you, sir, Dr. Sachikanda Das.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely, you're audible.
Thank you, ma'am. The background is- uh, Thank you very much for this opportunity. So, I'm Dr. Sachikant Das, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, JIT University, Odisha. So, I'm the coordinator of SAC club here in these organizations. So, in our organization, we are planning various types of activities in SAC under SAC club and also under EDC club. So recently, we had conducted one startup jatra, and before that, in the startup jatra of Odisha, a few students have participated in that case. In that case, and the students have pitched different kinds of ideas in that event, and the idea has been given for a selection point of view, and also recently we have organized one startup Jatra 2.0. In that case, more than 40 participants, 40 ideas has been pitched, and the student from our university has given their ideas and different ideas. So out of these, 9 ideas have been selected uh, for the processing, and in our under the SAC club, under the SAC banner, we are doing so much of various kind of activities. Basically, we are focusing on the rural areas. Though our university is under the rural area, so basically we are finding out the solutions to give different kinds of solutions to the rural peoples who are facing in our day-to-day life. Also, rural people are facing so many kinds of problems that the urban people cannot have. So we are trying to solve those kind of problems through our innovative students, and uh, we have not. We can say we have achieved so many things, but we can say that we have initiated our work from our level, and we want more supports from the startup yatra and from Orissa team and such type of things. We want such type of supports so that we can grow, and also we motivate our students to participate in various activities and give their different kinds of ideas in this type of environment. So, with this, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Every Saturday, we have this coffee break session wherein various entrepreneurs who have made leaps in innovations come and speak about their leaps. Today, we have another such entrepreneur, Mr. Nitheesh Kumar, who is one of the co founders and directors as Vasitars Private Limited and Prajjawala Systems and Solutions Private Limited. He is a mechanical engineer graduate from IIT Bhubaneswar, batch of 2019. He was one of the finalists of the Indian Innovation Growth Program 2017. Vasitars is a technology based startup that was founded by the students and faculty members of IIT Bhubaneswar, incorporated in India in the year 2017 with a target to provide engineered composite repair, rehabilitation, and maintenance solutions to damaged pipelines or piping systems through its in-house patient registered indigenous technology. Vasitars has raised around 4.5 crore till date and is currently in its early commercialization phase, serving major oil and gas PSUs in India. Vasitars was awarded the Startup of the Year 2020 by Federation of Indian Petroleum Industry, that is FIPI, We are very thankful for having Mr. Nitish Kumar, who is going to share his experience. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nitheesh. Might require to do something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what am I supposed to do now?
Okay, sir. Sir, could you please tell us something about yourself?
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nitheesh. So I'm a mechanical engineering graduate, batch of 2019 from IIT Bhubaneswar. So me, actually, it was two of my seniors. So back in IIT, so it was uh, during my first year of IIT, it was pretty common for us to explore different clubs, societies, and stuff. So at that point of time, I was eager to explore and be a part of everything. So that is when I met two of my seniors, so Mr. Vishwas and Mr. Tushar. They were working. So one of them was working on composites. So and I used to just work with them. So they were into working on different projects. So there was something called Design Innovation Center at IIT Bhubaneswar. So where it's a sort of a lab where you get registered into it. You have access to a lot of tools. You could procure something if you're trying to build something. You can submit an idea and get it approved so by the head of DIC. They'll provide you with some funds so where we develop something. So through that, I mean, we were working with my senior, Mr. Vishwas and Tushar. So they were mechanical engineering too. And during that course, in when I was in my second year, so that is when Vishwas and Tushar they decided that they'll start a company. It was in very early phase. So Vishwas was working on composites, and his work, which he was working on, the results of it was an academic project. So it was the results of it was very positive, super positive. And this work was also being done in association with IIT Madras. So the professor at IIT Madras said that so we could start a company on it, take this project into commercial stage. So for that, he also encouraged us to start a company. So then what we did was we didn't start a company. So basically it was Vishwas and Tushar, they took a decision, they wanted to start a company. And we didn't have any name or something. So we just had a dummy name. And what we did was we started participating in some business plan competitions, pitching events, even before we started the company. And during that period of time, so we started. So there was something of uh, a stone. We had a stone. So basically, we had to refine it, polish it, so make it into a statue. So we are currently in the process of doing that. So that was when we had a rock. So as we went ahead and ahead, so participating in these events, so we got to know now we have a rock. We don't know what to do with it, uh, whether it had potential or whether it had not. But participating in those events gave us confidence that. So at that point of time, I was just a junior, so just eager to participate with this. I wanted to start my own company later. Um uh, I just was looking into then association with associating with people so that I can gain the required experience so that I can later start my own startup. But working with them was so much of fun. Then participating in these events, we realized that the idea that we have has potential. So it could solve some of India's problems. What are problems we are having in India, it could solve it. And then in 2017, in year 2017, so it was my senior's final year. So that is when we started the company in 2017. So it was then it was five of us. So two of my seniors and me, we were working there, and one of my so it was Tushar Vishwas, my seniors, two seniors. It was me, and then two more seniors of mine joined hands. So with five of us together, so we started the company. So then it was Tushar and Vishwas who were co-founders. Uh, and we continued working on it. So they later were full time. So I was supporting them from college. Then during my fourth year is when I realized. So And when I started to work on my own ideas, I wanted to make my own startup. Then I realized that so the most important thing that was here, that worked for us was the team that we had. So we had a team of people, so where we had complementing strengths and weaknesses. So Vishwas and I used to work on technical things. So Tushar, so mostly used to work on those marketing related things, participating in events and all those. When we started the startup, we had many ideas. So we almost had close to 5 to 8 ideas. We wanted to launch all of them, but out of those 5 to 8, only two worked out. So whatever worked out, we started refining on them. And fortunately, I mean, thanks to our professors, we had so much of help from our professors. We IIT Bhubaneswar was, its facilities were not well up to our requirement at that time. So we used to take IIT Madras help. So many a times during our semesters, we had to travel to IIT Madras for doing some testing and come back to IIT. So during that time, I remember that our attendances used to be very close to that 75% mark. So if our attendance gets lower than that, we are not allowed to sit for exams. We used to manage that. So we used to work overnight and stuff. During that time, it was completely we were passionate about doing it. It didn't matter what time at night we were working at. So we wanted to work on weekends too. Our professors used to help us with this lab permissions too. They never said no to anything. So and during that time, so all we were not required to spend a penny. I mean, mostly whatever we spent was traveling to these competitions or traveling to IT metros to get our testing done. But most of it, whatever was there, the project related requirements were there. So we our professors found a way so that institute can fund us, DAC can fund us. So we were using this money. By the time before even we started the startup, we had a product ready. So one thing that was missing was a practical testing of the scene. So basically, what we developed was a composite material. So which basically is like a bandage. If a pipeline gets damaged, you apply over it. So the conventional technology at that point of time was, if there is a damage in a pipeline, you replace the damaged portion of the pipeline. So for doing that, what is done is the damaged portion of the pipeline is cut down, is taken out, a new section is put, and it is welded. But assume this, I mean, if the case is for an oil and gas pipeline, so where the material flowing inside is a highly inflammable material. So then in that case, you cannot directly go and cut it. So it has to be shut down. All the material inside has to be sucked out. And then it will be cut. Even if traces are there, it could cause there is always a risk of fire or explosion. So there were at this point of time there was this technology, composite repair technology, which was already there on the global market. So where in India the usage of it is was very little because back in 2015 it was just so the major oil and gas companies like IOCL, BPCL, HPCL, GAIL started using this. So they were very expensive, and so we became the first Indian company to have such products. So, and as it was an academic project, all our data, whenever our BTech projects or academic projects, so we used to compare the technical works. So as an academic project, we were very concerned about the technical aspects of it, the technical specifications of it. So when we realized that the properties of it are at par or superior to the products available globally, then we started building upon it. So now, how can we make this commercially viable? So after we started the company, we started working around it. So through one of our professors, he had a connection at IOCL Paradip. So there, through them, we got a pilot project. So where, as a demonstration, we did a pilot project there, which was successful. So then later, sometime, so Jan 2017, we started the company. Somewhere around the summer holidays, so we went to IOCL. We did a demonstration project. I mean, they wanted to do it back in April, but we had our exams. But the then general manager there, he was very considerate. He wanted to help us. He wanted to see if this could work. It would be useful for the all major oil and gas companies across the country. He so took permissions later during summer holidays. So it was me and my friends, my juniors. We went there, repaired it. So we actually got into site. We repaired a pipeline. So then this was very useful for us. Later we applied for IOCL startup fund. So when we applied for it, we got it. A company which was only 6 7 months old. So we got selected for a very prestigious fund. So the other finalists or whoever got selected for this, at least not the technology side of it, the technologies, there were certain technology-based startups which had applied for it. Out of some 6 7 that had applied, we were the only company which was 6 7 months old. So all other companies were at least 4 5 years old or so. And sure that helped us. I mean, for us to do this, before this, what happened was in Feb 2017, Sri Dharmendra Pradhanji, so then oil and gas minister, he had come to our IIT for he was chief guest of a foundation day of IIT Bhubaneswar. She had come in. So our professors had requested our then director Raja Kumar, so that our students have an idea which is related to oil and gas. So oil and gas minister is here. If he could give us some 5 10 minutes of his time, we could pitch him the idea. So then director said that, so okay, you professor people, you present them. So then our professors were ready. They went and presented him. So Dharmendra Pradhanji, he said that no, I want to see the students. I want the students to present. So then we presented it. He liked it very much. So what he did was he said he promised us he would help, but we didn't know in what form he could help us, whether he could get us some funds or he could get us some projects, or in what way he could help us. We didn't know. It was after he did that, so as he was a minister, we couldn't very easily contact him also. So then after a few months during the summer holidays only, he had arranged for it. So in the meantime, in May 2017 or so, he sent GAIL to our campus. So there were a team from GAIL, Gas Authority of India Limited. They came in. They discussed with us. They were ready to fund us with 50 lakhs. So, but our requirement was such that it requires further product refinement. So severe R&D is required. So 50 lakhs was not sufficient for us. And being students back then, 50 lakhs was a huge amount. So whether to give it up or not, should we accept it? If we accept it, we'll have to utilize this, complete it, and then go for someone else. So whether if we do that, would we be at risk? So are we? I mean, what would they think if we say no? So there were many doubts that were there. We discussed with
So,
them.
so sorry to stop you at this moment, but I'm really very curious to know one thing.
Mhm,
Like, before we do any startup or whether we start a new business or be it
mhm,
anything, so there
mhm.
are a lot of supports that are needed.
Right,
Undoubtedly, your professors helped you a lot. But then,
right,
like,
right.
if we see, like, a family support is something more that gives you motivation. So I would like to know, like, how did your family and in which manner did they support you?
Okay, okay. I'll just complete this part. I don't want to leave it hanging.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah. So Gail came in. So our discussion with Gail helped us to understand the loopholes that we had, the plan that we had. So what were the loopholes in the plan? How could we make a very well constructed plan, well refined plan? So Gail helped us. We had finally through our professor said that. So it is you guys who have to decide. So we discussed. So like, can we say no? We don't want to take it. Actually, we don't want to take it because this is not sufficient. They're not ready to give us more than this because we were only a bunch of students. Their main concern was whether the students will continue. When we are giving so 50 lakhs, an amount for Gale is so close to a pies for them. So not a very uh, significant amount for them. So their concern was this bunch of students. So whether us investing on it. So later they decide that this is not useful for them. They want to go for their jobs, higher studies and stuff. I think that was their main concern. So they didn't want to go higher. They said that the professors would be the main people rather than we would be funding it. So the professors are also part of the pack. So these sort of things were there. So we decided it were very restrictive. So they didn't allow us to change later if we had further requirement. So extension whether they would provide these things were not clear. We said no to it. But finally the discussion that we had helped us to make a very solid plan, which got us to win to get the startup fund, IOCL startup fund. Yeah. So now I'll answer this question. So there was from my side, I'll tell my side. So when I was working on this, my parents were not very concerned. So they were okay with it. So from my very first year, so we had a month of first semester holidays or winter holidays. So we had almost 2 months of summer holidays. In my first year, I spent something around 10 days of my winter holidays at home, and in summer holidays it was for 5 days, and the subsequent years it was 2 days, and then second year final it was 1 day. My parents were concerned that so is visiting us less. So my father was not very concerned. My mother was a bit concerned. So is he taking care of health? Is he eating healthy food or not? So that was my mother's major concerns. My father was fine. Back and when I entered third year, so that was when it was in 2017. So when I was getting serious about being in the startup, so my father expected me to go to do a job overseas. So he had a friend whose son studied outside in Germany. He got a job there. He always wanted. I mean, there was some stigma, social stigma that was there, that he wanted his son also to be in a very high-profile job also. I in third year I mustered courage and I told him I don't want to go for a job. So I think I realized that so the thing that worked for Vasitars were, so we were a team, we were very close, we did know what our strengths and weaknesses were, what we could do, so what our drawbacks were, what our limitations were, what we could work on, who could work on what. So there was a team, so we had a team. So when I decided, when I thought that whether could I start my own startup, I could. So if I had an idea that could go in, but without a team, it is, so taking it to a place would be very tough. So the for me the ultimate thing is for anyone to start a company, the first thing that is required is, so more than anything is team. So you could get support, you not get support. So I think so entrepreneurs have this thing. So they're stubborn. Even if there is no support, we still want to jump in. So we don't know whether we could float or not, but we would jump in. So, but something that would take in us. So the basic thing I feel is team is very important. Team which is utmostly dedicated to the company. So our initial team, out of our initial team, so few people left. So they didn't see it working for them, and it is that the thing works. But majority of the team stayed back. So we brought in more members. Now this, when I told my father I don't want to go for a job, so I want to continue the startup. He was very concerned. Um, he didn't talk to me for a few months or so. And he used to, I mean, so my mother used to ask me, if father is feeling bad, go for a job. You later, if when you're financially secure, you can go start a company. I tried. My mother was not, so she was a homemaker, so her education was only up to plus two. So I couldn't make her understand that how important this was. If I leave it, I didn't get the chance again. So it was, if I leave it, it's gone for lifetime. I could start it later, but I would always feel that way. Later, I think so after some time, after my father realized that I would, so financial security wouldn't be a problem for me. So I would find my way around. He finally came comes to it, but I think still there is a regret for him. So in my final year, I had an opportunity. I almost got a placement at IOCL, so where I would get a annual package of something around 17 LPA. And leaving that, so I was at that point of time, as we were a startup, we couldn't pay ourselves much. So we were paying ourselves something around 20,000, 25,000. So he felt very bad. So to this day, he feels that if I had gone there, so my possibilities could have been furthermore. I tell him, so so I have this passion only now. Even after some years, if I could work, my physical health wouldn't support, my mental health wouldn't support. So this is the time I could work. So one thing that worked more for Vasitas is, so we did all the things, all the initial things. So until we reached traction, we did all of those when we were students. So there was no financial implication on it. We didn't have this. If it doesn't work out, we are going to go for our jobs. And so this was something. So our professor used to say on. I mean, initially we used to discuss, we used to say, so he used to tell this statement. If you IITians are worried about job, then what about people studying at local engineering colleges? So they're starting startups, they're working on it. So you being IITians, you should not have the job security thing as well. So in startup, you would be learning more. So you always have chance to bounce back, even if something goes wrong. But fortunately, that didn't happen. For us, the major support was our IIT, our professors, our director, Dharmendra Pradhanji. So he as he was a native of Odisha, state of Odisha. So he also wanted, so that IIT Bhubaneswar being from Odisha, has to go on national level, should make name for itself. So that sort of support from Dharmendra Pradhanji was always there. So whenever we went to Delhi for some meetings as well, so we used to be in contact with this PS. He used to so support us. At least he used to convey this. He used to convey his regards through his PS whenever wherever we were. A big support in that way from ministry as well at ministry level. So for a small startup, I mean, so that support was there even when the startup was only few months old or few days old. So I think in that way we were very lucky in that all what we're done. So for us to, I mean, this industry that we are working in, the particular field that we are in, this stuff to there is a lot of competition. The major competition is from global companies. So they're at least 30, 40 years old, very established companies. So and this is a service market. So and the competition is very cutthroat. Uh, but whatever was it, so finally we were able to raise so 4.5 crores of funding, so from different organizations, so from IOCL, from GAIL. GAIL again, so after they saw that we did our agreement with IOCL and we were growing good and our technology was coming out good, which was of global level, the standards are at global level. So then they themselves came in, so they funded us. So that is how, uh, when after doing our R&D, we needed a plant. So we set up a production unit and we set up a R&D center thanks to the funding that we received from GAIL. So, and currently we are here now. So we started commercialization in 2020. So it was during the year of Corona. It was it had a huge impact on us. Our plans, whatever were there because of Corona, it got all it didn't go as per plan. So but we it was a point where our financials were almost low. We were about to close the company. But fortunately, our employees who were there listed with us. We crossed it. So currently, we are in our first year of commercialization. I mean, we completed our first year commercialization. This is our second year. So first year we were able to make good revenues. So this year it's continuing on. So we are currently in our first phase of commercialization. So basically, that's our story.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us introduction of your entire journey, sharing your entire journey with us. Well, sir, as you said that Corona had an impact on your business. So, sir, I have personally seen a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So they literally have an positive as well as a negative impact.
Right, right.
Yeah. So due to Corona, they literally have a positive as well as a negative impact. So, sir, I would like to know, what sort of positiveness, impact did you have because of Corona in your business?
Uh, yeah. So the positives were. um I mean, so we were. I mean, we wanted to commercialize that very first year. So because of Corona, what happened is now, so our work is mostly service related. So we go do projects out. Now because of this, all projects got delayed. So basically, there was no revenues that we could generate. So because that was the only way that we could. So what we did was we launched something vertical in our company called Vasitars Design Consultancy. So where through that we used to what are engineering problems were there, FE simulation related problems were there in industry surrounding us. So we used to solve them. So through which we started generating. This was not a very successful venture, but it opened options for us. So the negatives were this. So like everyone, it affected us financially. So because as we were not able to run our business, so we were not getting our revenue. So what our funds were there were on the stage of depleting. If Corona had further extended, it would have been a problem. So, but even then, even when Corona was there, so I remember in October 2020, so we got a project. So we convinced them that we would take all precautions. So all our service people who will be there, all our work people who would go to site and work. So I mean, so there were some sort of SOPs made. So we could work, but on a limited basis. So that was something. So it was after so many follow-ups that they also wanted to help us. So they gave us a small project, so where we were able to manage a bit. So the other positives were so this time, so we were what we did was we started focusing on R&D more. What we did was we called our team. Fortunately, our R&D center currently, which is in Chennai, so it is basically our professor's house. Our professor had a two-story building. It had ground floor, first floor. The top floor it was a like sort of a penthouse, a single room. What he did was he gave it to us because it was tough for us to find an office working space. So we had lab requirements and such. So and we needed our team for a place for our team to stay to. He gave it to us. What we did was we demolished whatever was not useful for us. We converted the kitchen into a chemistry lab. We converted the back garden, which was there, into a testing rig. We used to do our experimentation, fabrication, and stuff in the hall. In the first floor, we made it into an office, so for where we could put up systems and work. And our so top floor, which was a penthouse, was used to be our residential thing. So where we put up two beds, where we sleep there only, cook there only. So this what we did was, as he had given us permission, so we all like converted all things into here. So we bought our employees back, and it provided us time. So we used this time. So we used to work beyond our working general working hours. So we used to start at 9 or so. We used to go work until late nights, 9:30. Whatever our pending R&D projects were there, we were able to complete this. So that was of a huge help. Further getting more projects in the future years.
Well, sir, this Vasitars is a pretty unique name. So, could you please tell me the reason? Like, let us everybody know and enlighten us with the reasons that why Vasitars. Like, what is the reason behind that?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Vasitars is my two seniors, the actual co-founders of the company. So they were actual. Uh, they were the initial people. Without them, this company would not have been started. So we were there as a team, but it was the two of them who took that stand and wanted to start a startup. So basically, Vasitars has Vishwas and Tushar. So they wanted their two first letters to be in the name of the company, V and T. So Vasitars has it. So when you spell out Vasitars, Va sound this. Va shabd comes in, Ta shabd comes in, Ta. So Vasi, we basically when we were discussing it, brainstorming around it, so we found a word called Vasi. Vasi is a Sanskrit word. So Vasi is I think it's in Telugu and Tamil, I guess. So Vasi, the meaning is mesmerize. In Telugu, it's called Vasi Karinchuta. So Vasi is Vasi Karan in Tamil. So Vasi is mesmerize. We added a term so which doesn't have any meaning. It was stars. So we wanted to mesmerize or attract using technology. So that was a meaning.
Well, sir, that's pretty unique. So like as you talked about, like as you were speaking about that, there were very various projects that you had
Right.
worked on. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So, sir, like could you please share us some of the engineering challenges or the some of the cases that you had solved?
Okay.
Yes.
I think it would become more technical there. So I wouldn't know if so our audience here would understand it. So, either challenges or most of them are engineering related.
Okay, sir.
I think so it
Sir,
wouldn't
in
make
layman terms.
I think the major problem that we had was so attracting. I would rather not exactly problems with projects, but problems in general.
Mm.
So for a startup company like us, so we wanted so our objective was whenever we used to discuss, we wanted uh, whenever we used to make a job description. So we wanted a person who could do engineering things. He should do managerial things. Should do marketing things. We wanted an employee who should do all everything,
Okay.
and
All
that
in
is
one
up
kind of
to all
employee.
in one. So I mean, we it is as our startup, so as it's our baby. So we were working on it. We working on everything. But so for the employee who's coming, how would you do it? Initially, it was tough for us. So, but with the very first employee that joined us, understood this. I mean, we didn't have a proper plan. We didn't have HR. I mean, it was us people, and we had only one employee. So during when we got into ISL project, so we had some milestones to complete. Uh, our initially, he was our very first employee. So, and so he used to receive similar salaries to us, not any different at all. So we used to work together. And one thing was that so I think so now he has left us. So he wanted to further go explore many things, but he was a very I would say an ideal candidate for us. He didn't show to no to anything. When we used to send him, he was from an engineering college in Tamil Nadu, and he did not have much experience with presentations and stuff. So, but he used to work on it. He used to go individually on those presentations, and he became this. I think so. If there was any other person, sort of a regular candidate, so who would do what works assigned to him, who would not try to go beyond it. So it would have been tough for us. So now, as our first employee was similar to us, his working culture also got similar to us. He used to even when overtime requirements were there, he used to work on it. Individually, he used to take it up. So we had to visit many places. We would not all of us be in one place. He started taking. So he became one of the leaders. So he was not much different to us. So there were some differences with the technical expertise or the experience that we had. Apart from that, he was very similar to us. Now he became a model candidate for us. So whenever we took new people, even though they had similar intentions or not, so there was always a reference to point out. So they would see him working. So and involuntarily, what it happens is the same working culture gets spread across. So people also start taking it as a norm. So that became a norm for us, which was it was a pleasant coincidence for us. I think this was one of the challenges. Later, people who came in uh, were different, so were not up to mark. But what stayed back was so. Fortunately, the working culture in a startup was better defined because of the first employee we had. So this was a challenge. So even to this date, after that employee has left, so there are people who are continuing his uh, legacy around. So as being a model employee. Uh, Now we find it tough. So it was very fortunate of us to find such a model employee.
Well, sir, that's absolutely great. So actually, I had seen your services, that the services Vastas provide is that FRP. So, sir, could you please enlighten us about this FRP?
FRPs are so basically FRP is an abbreviation for fiber reinforced polymers. So this is what we worked upon. So currently we have five applied patents in which one is granted. Um, so this is an indigenous technology developed in India. So if you see, so composites is something so where India was working on for so long time. So commonly, generally in ISRO, if you see, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam ji, he is called as the father of composites. He was the one who started use of composites for fabrication of spacecraft. So our professors who were there, they were working on it for more than 10 years or so. So they were working on composites, basically on high strength materials or superior materials to be used in defense related applications or space related applications. So that is when so these composites. One of our professors who went for an international conference saw there that composites were being used for rehabilitation, repair and rehabilitation of pipelines. That is when he suggested us that why don't we take this up? So that is when my senior was in his second year. So he started working on it. So before him, his senior worked on it. So then my super senior he started working on it. So after him, I started working on it. It was sort of so we had this sort of a culture back at our IT that so we work on things for longer periods of time. We explore it. So my senior was a second generation person to work on it. So when he started working on it, we so the fundamentals what are there we got it right. So we got something out of it. So then we started working on this composite. So this composite, if we in composite, there's a particular type of composite, a category of composites called FRPs, or otherwise called fiber reinforced polymers. So basically, where there is a polymer matrix and a fiber reinforcement, so dono milake becomes a composite material. So I could say there is a bandage. So you take a bandage. So if you have a fracture, generally you go to hospital. They put plaster of Paris and a bandage. So which sets itself, they wet it in water and they'll put it on your hand, which after setting becomes a strong, which holds your fractured arm in place. So that is also a composite. So our composite is also similar. It has a matrix, another shoe, or fibers which are there. So now these are the fibers designed or synthesized in such a way that they have required properties and can be qualified for use in repair of pipelines.
Well, sir, you have almost answered all my questions. So I would like to ask the audience if they are having any questions with them. I would like to hear from the audience if you're having any questions. If you want to ask any questions from sir, you can kindly drop your questions in the comment section, or you can kindly unmute yourself and you can directly ask your question from sir. Also, before starting the questionnaire session, I would also like to request all the participants to kindly fill up the feedback form that is provided in the chat box below. So, that is basically a feedback form about the survey so that we can continue with the sessions like this. So, yeah, we can start up with the questionnaire round. So, any participants, if you like to ask some questions, you can come and ask. Unmute yourself, or you can either drop your questions in the chat box.
Yeah, just before that, just a point. So I think you can call me Nitheesh. I'm almost similar age to all of you. I think so. There's certain thing we can drop it. So you can call me Nitheesh.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Hi, sir. Thanks for sharing your. It was very
Yeah, you can call me
encouraging.
Nitheesh. This sir, I think it feels bit
Okay. Yeah.
uncomfortable.
It's very fascinating to see an engineering-based startup coming up. It's very rare
Thank you, thank you.
to see that. So, I think you haven't mentioned anything about. So, how big is the project? Like, I couldn't get any idea. Like, how big of the pipe that you're solving, uh, and uh, and what are the cases wherein that your solution cannot be applied? Because I feel that is it apply can be applied in highly pressurized pipes or something like that, and how small the crack or the hole should be, something like that. Would
Okay,
know?
okay. So to answer your question, so I mean, as soon as you started asking high pressures and stuff, so it sort of felt that I was speaking to a client. Sure, basically our technology can be applied for pressures as high as 350 bars. So 350 bars is a very high pressure. So generally pipelines are operated at maximum up to 200 kgs of pressure. So there are certain cases which it causes 200 kg pressure, but our materials application can go as high as 200. So and when you're talking about cracks and leaks, so basically that is what is a main problem in this industry. So so there are certain limitations to it. So we could do there are something called so this leaking defects are categorized into three types. So there are through holes, pinholes, through holes, and slot type of defects. So the cracks and stuff comes into slot type of defects. Through holes are ones where there's a circular or near circular defects. And pinholes are very tiny holes which are not most of the times visible to naked eye, very small holes. So we do address all of them. So we do stop them at live conditions. So the main problem in oil and gas industry is not money. So the money required for repairing the job. It's more about now there is a leak in a pipeline. So now for us to arrest it using conventional technology, the pipeline has to be shut down. So now this is what causes operational loss. So because of the shutdown, there is huge operational loss for the company, which is in terms of crores even for a day. So now that is what they want to avoid at all costs. So when a pipeline is commissioned, they do have scheduled shutdowns. So where there are planned shutdowns where if there are any defects, they do. So before this time, if anything comes in, so they try to get it addressed using this composite repair technology. So where there are two levels of repair. The first level of repair arrests or contains a leak, and the second level of repair strengthens the defected portion of the pipe. It's basically like there is a wound. So the first level of repair is applying an ointment. So the ointment would contain the leak. The second level of repair is strengthening it. That is applying a bandage over it.
So I'm just a little more curious. So whether you guys identify whether the client identifies that's a leak, then call you, or you take up any company and do say that you take the maintenance of this pipe and later on you identify. Like how's the identification
Right, right.
process?
So those are, I mean, so there are point-to-point basis works too. So where when they have a problem, they call us and do. But the most general way of work is tenders comes in. So as the thing that we are dealing with is, I mean, our we have different stages of market. Our primary market is oil and gas companies, or high risk companies, or basically our products are, so our technology is very expensive. So it can be used for repairing an leak in a water pipeline. Let's say there's a drinking water pipeline or a fire water pipeline. So it can be repaired there too. There, cutting the pipeline makes more sense, more economical sense than doing composite repair, because composite repair is very expensive. So here it makes economical sense. Our primary market is oil and gas companies. So generally they float tenders. So they would they'd be doing inspection of those. So based upon the inspection data, they release tenders, and these tenders are of different. So sometimes it's volume based, and sometimes it is annual rate contracts or annual maintenance contracts. So which would be can be for 1 year, could be for 2 years or even 3 years. Yeah.
And what is the guarantee that you give on your solution, sir? Is there any specific guarantee that you like
Yeah.
last around?
There are two things. So guarantee and warranty. So we provide warranty for a period of time, 5 years or such period of time. So there is guarantee for something 10 years to 20 years.
And if you don't mind, so what is the profit margin that is there in this business? Because engineering business is always very tight as well. And also, what do you have as a barrier of entry? I know that so anyone use this material and simply use it, or is it very difficult or something like that?
Yeah. So to answer your first point, even if I did know the answer, I would say I don't know the answer. So being in this market, it is very critical for us to hide as much as possible on the commercial terms. So we don't,
Yeah, I completely
even if
agree.
it's
Yeah.
close advisor that asks us, even our professor is who, if he's asking if he's not a board member, so we would not answer. So the first question, I don't have an answer for you. To answer your second question, yeah, anyone can enter this market. So currently, so there are some companies which have tie up with global companies and are trying to get into the Indian market. But so in our scenario, we found that there was no indigenous manufacturer. So because the main barrier that would be is because this material or this technology requires uh, it's it's completely like so a technology driven process. This is not something one person could come in and year he could achieve it in. So we were able to do that because we had professors with experience of 10 to more than 10 15 years of experience in composites. So that was the only reason so why we were able to, it was possible for us to achieve this fitness. The second concern is the monetary things. So as we become the first player, as we have patents and stuff, it almost becomes tough for some other player. So, to give an example, there are global companies available. So we are the first Indian company to be in this market. There are global companies available. So our technology is similar to them. So the way it is applied. So basically, it's like applying ointment and bandage. So anyone can do. So the ointment that they use and the ointment that we use is different. So that is what our difference is. The second thing is how would you apply that ointment? So how do you apply that bandage? This methodology. These are the two things that we keep working on. So us being from an R&D background, so most of our uh, higher level management partners who are there. So most of them are from the technical background. So I think so there is uh, no one that could beat us. So I mean this would be a bit arrogant at this point, but I think it's tough for anyone. If you see out of all IITs that were there, so IIT Bhubaneswar being a very small IIT, us working on it, so there was no other IIT which had started working on it or started exploring. So it would be tougher. So even in IITs, even it being a very premier organization, so we have we were working on this back in year 2013 to right now. So we almost have a decade of experience on this. So if anyone starts now too, so it would take them something at least a decade for them to reach to our level.
That's very good to know, sir. Can you also share us? So, what is the frequency of occurrence of this issue, sir? Let's say I have a plant or something. So, how frequently there's a chances of this problem occurring?
So it depends upon pipeline to pipeline. So now what we are addressing is the main problem is corrosion. So corrosion happens with almost everything. Whatever is metallic, the material is corrodable. Corrosion is a natural process. So basically, in nature, so there are metallic compounds which are there. They occur in nitrides, oxides, carbides. So we convert them into pure form. So we make it steel or something. So now the natural process is the material tries to go back to its more stable form, which would be nitrides, oxides, or so. So corrosion, as in one corrosion, so there are certain uh, preventive measures that are taken to decelerate corrosion or to prevent corrosion. Preventing corrosion is a very tough task. So let's say there is a 10-kilometer pipeline. So in a 10-kilometer pipeline, so it is properly painted. So in this industry, coatings, it's called as coatings rather than paint. So because they are very specific to corrosion prevention and stuff. So coatings are put even in one place, the coating gets tampered or when moisture can enter there, so corrosion starts. So this being the issue, so corrosion is very prevalent and it is tough to completely eliminate it. Um, I would say that there is a huge market that is. So pipelines is one thing. So we are all also into structural rehabilitation. So for example, there are structures which are there to hold these pipelines. So there are certain structures where so in offshore conditions. So for example, there are oil rigs in the middle of Arabian Sea. So far away, some 200 kilometers away from coast, Mumbai coast. So now these have some metallic platforms to repair of the structures. So there are a lot of work related. I mean, the water market that we have, we have only scratched off of it. So most of it, majority of it, are still being those are being addressed by non-Indian vendors. So our aim is that should to replace non-Indian vendor with indigenized, made in India technology.
And by the way, can this solution be applied to any diameter of pipe? Because I think the more it gets bigger and more
Theoretically, yes.
viable the product.
Theoretically, yes. So practically, there are certain constraints. So the maximum that we address to our manually, it becomes manually critical. So after that, we would require assistance, mechanized assistance.
And what do you see for the future expansion of the company? So you're going to just only do this, or do you have any other future product lines or services that you?
So currently, so I mean, so what we what we are exploring, we could say is we are trying to provide repair or rehabilitation solutions for damaged or corroded pipelines. So now, if I remove pipelines and put structures, corroded structures, our possibilities are infinite. So India is in one place. India is one place which has so much of market. So we are in beginning stages, so where I mean we do not have enough workforce to address all those, or so do not have the right technology to address those. So we do have many options, possibilities of this. We are trying to uh, target one market. Currently, what we are trying to do is we are trying to follow this bell curve method. In statistics, if you see, so generally, so we are trying to be within our standard deviation of sigma. So the major portion which would achieve us the required revenues. So we are targeting on that. So building our capability on that, and slowly we'll move towards the right verticals and the left verticals. We'll move towards the plus sigmas and negative sigmas. So there that could yield us more. But so one vertical, one market we are focusing on currently. So we are also focusing on the other markets as well. So where we try to build up a little capability and then later explore.
I think I took a lot of time. It was a nice session, and all the very
Yeah.
best, very best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback form that is available in the chat box. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you, Nitesh, sir, for sharing all your experiences.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to again thank everybody, all the participants who have joined here for this interactive section. I would also like to thank all the sponsors of My Startup Yatra, that is the Early Birds Club, which is powered by Niti Yog, Atal Innovation Mission, ACIC. Our partners are Beer Garage Accelerator, Atal Incubation Center, Nolexon, and Enabling Ideas. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, sir, Nitesh, sir, for making this a successful event. And thank you so much, all the participants, for joining the event. And I would again like to request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback form that is provided in the chat box. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.